Today, we're tackling something that honestly feels like a massive hurdle for new online sellers. Paid shipping versus free shipping. It's one of those early decisions where you feel like, gosh, if I pick wrong, it's going to cost me a
Yeah.
lot, like walking a tightrope maybe.
Oh, absolutely. It really can feel that way. And let's just be super clear right up front. This
Mhm.
isn't, a simple pick A or B situation. The real answer, as we're going to unpack here, is almost always going to be, well, it depends.
Yeah.
So our mission today is really to equip you, listening right now, with the mechanics, the strategy, and the personal things you need to weigh up. We want to help you cut through all the conflicting advice out there so you can make a really informed choice for your business.
Okay, great. So let's start with the basics, the groundwork. Because before strategy, we need to understand the nuts and bolts, right? So when we talk about paid shipping, what's the core idea? What does a new seller really need to grasp?
Yeah, good question. With paid shipping, basically what happens is the shipping price gets shown separately on the listing. Think like eBay. The buyer sees the item price and then they see another distinct charge for shipping. And that charge, it's calculated based on where you are, the seller, and where the buyer is. The buyer pays the total amount to the platform, like eBay, and then eBay passes those shipping funds to you so you can actually buy the label. The key things affecting that cost are, the usual suspects: size, weight, and how far it's got to travel. And importantly, those costs can vary quite a bit depending on who you ship with UPS, FedEx, USPS. They all calculate a bit differently.
Okay, so that sounds pretty straightforward, transparent for the buyer at least. But then there's free shipping. Sounds amazing to a buyer, obviously. But shipping's never really free, is it? What does it actually mean for the seller? What should they be doing behind the curtain?
Right, that's where let's say, the magic or sometimes the mistake happens.
Mm.
When a buyer sees free shipping, the seller should have already factored that shipping cost into the item's total price. So the price the buyer sees is meant to cover both your profit margin and what it's going to cost you to ship it. And just like with paid shipping, the realities of size, weight, distance, they're still absolutely critical. They haven't disappeared. You've just sort of bundled them into the main price.
Okay, that's a really key difference. So given those two models, what's the sort of immediate practical advice for someone just starting out? Where do new sellers tend to trip up right at the beginning with this?
Okay, this is probably one of the biggest aha moments, and it comes straight from the folks who've been there. If you're new, start with paid shipping. Seriously, why? Well, it helps you avoid the most common and frankly devastating mistake: undercharging. When you're just starting, trying to accurately guess and bake in the shipping cost for free shipping, it's really, really tough. Imagine you list something for, say, $20 with free shipping, thinking, oh, it'll cost maybe $7 to ship, but then, oops, it actually costs $15. That $8 difference, it can just completely wipe out your profit. You might even lose money. Paid shipping basically acts like your safety net while you're learning how shipping costs actually work.
That makes total sense, like training wheels for shipping costs.
Sure.
And you mentioned something foundational, something that applies regardless of whether you eventually go paid or free, but often gets missed. What is it?
Yes, the absolute non-negotiable step. The secret weapon against losing money on shipping. Measure and weigh your item before you list it. This isn't optional, not for paid, not for free. It is the bedrock. You have to do it.
Okay, I can definitely vouch for that one from experience. So for someone totally new, how should they measure accurately?
Just grab a ruler, a tape measure, whatever you've got. You need the length, width, and height. And don't just measure the item itself. Think about the smallest practical box it'll fit into safely. Don't eyeball it. Seriously, every fraction of an inch can matter, especially when things start getting bigger.
Right. And once you've got those dimensions nailed down, what about getting the weight right? What's the process there?
Okay, this is where a package scale becomes like your best friend. You don't need anything fancy or expensive. Even a basic digital scale is one of the smartest investments you can make early on. It saves you money, trust me. So first, weigh the item itself. Then weigh the actual box you plan to use empty. Add those together. And here's the bit people forget. Add another 1 to 3 ounces for your packing materials. Bubble wrap, paper, tape. It adds up. If you want to be super, super accurate when you're starting out, pack the item completely. Box, padding, tape, everything. Then weigh the whole finished package. You'll get a feel for it over time, but being precise at the start prevents those nasty surprises.
That's a really good tip. But what about, lots of new sellers try to save costs by scavenging free boxes, right? So you end up with this random collection of sizes and weights. Makes that precise weighing a bit tricky. Is there a workaround?
Yeah, that's super common. And there are a couple of smart ways to handle it. First, As you collect those free boxes, sort them roughly by size, then take each empty box, weigh it, and just write the weight in ounces somewhere on the box itself, like with a marker. That way, when you grab a box later, you already know exactly what the box itself weighs.
Oh, that's clever. Simple but effective. What's the other option?
The other way, if you've got a little bit of budget, is to actually buy boxes. Maybe just a few common sizes to start. This standardizes things a bit. You weigh each size of box you bought. Maybe make yourself a little cheat sheet, size A, you weighs 4 ounces, size B or 6 ounces, whatever. Always remembering to add your ounce or two for packing material. It just creates a faster, more repeatable system for yourself.
Okay, so we've got the how-to covered. Measure, weigh, account for everything. But the real game changer in cost often comes down to what you're selling, and maybe even where you're selling from.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the factors that can really swing those shipping costs.
Exactly. This is where the strategy really starts to come in and where people can get caught out.
Okay, first up, items under 1 pound. These seem to be like a sweet spot for a lot of sellers. Why is that?
Oh, they absolutely are. The great thing about items under a pound is they usually qualify for USPS first class package service, or, well, now it's called Ground Advantage, but the principle is similar for light stuff. And the key thing is, for those light packages, the price doesn't change dramatically based on distance, not like heavier stuff. So someone buying from across the country might pay roughly the same shipping costs as someone just one state over. We're talking like maybe in the $3 to $5 range usually. This predictability makes them fantastic candidates for offering free shipping because your cost is pretty stable. You know what you're getting into.
Ah, that's genuinely useful insight, a clear target. But okay, flip side, big items. First, how do we even define big? And what's the hidden trap here for sellers?
Right, defining big is super important, and the sources give us a really specific benchmark. It's basically anything that won't fit inside a 12-inch cube. A 12 by 12 by 12-inch box. If you multiply length x width x height in inches, 12 by 12 by 12 is 1,728 cubic inches. So if your box dimensions multiply out to more than 1,728 cubic inches, it's officially considered big by the carriers. So like a 14 by 10 by 12 box, that's 1,680 cubic inches, still not big. But a 14 by 14 by 10 box, that's 1,960 cubic inches. That would be considered big.
Okay, that's a really clear cutoff, 1,728 cubic inches. Got it. So once your box crosses that threshold, what's the scary calculation that trips people up? How do carriers charge for these bigger items?
This is the infamous dimensional weight, often called dim weight. And oh boy, this is where sellers, especially new ones, can lose serious money. All the major shippers, UPS, FedEx, USPS, use dim weight for these big items. Essentially, they calculate the cubic size of your box, then they divide that number by a special dimensional divisor. It's around 139 or 166 usually, depends on the carrier and service. This calculation gives them a dimensional weight. And here's the kicker. You get charged based on whichever weight is higher, the actual physical weight of your package or this calculated dimensional weight. So you could have something really light but bulky, like, I don't know, big lampshade. It weighs almost nothing. But because it's big, they'll charge you as if it weighs, say, 15 pounds based on its dimensions. This is exactly why those accurate measurements are critical. Get them wrong, input the wrong size into the listing, and you'll get hit with those nasty adjusted weight charges, especially from UPS and FedEx. They can absolutely kill your profit margin.
Wow. Okay, that's a huge heads up. It's not just weight. It's the space it occupies. So we've covered the mechanics, the cost pitfalls like dim weight. Now let's shift gears a bit. Let's talk about the strategic why. Why choose paid versus free? It feels like they send different messages almost.
Exactly. This is where you need to think about your business goals, your brand, what you want to achieve. Let's look at the pros often associated with free shipping first.
Okay, well, from a buyer's point of view, free shipping just feels good, right? It signals higher perceived value, like you're getting a deal. Sources suggest it often leads to a higher checkout rate, too fewer people abandoning carts because of sticker shock at the shipping cost. And maybe surprisingly, it can sometimes lead to higher average orders. People might add more items if shipping is free. It also seems generally better if you're selling lots of items that are roughly the same size and weight because your costs become more predictable for you. And this is a big one. eBay itself apparently says listings with free shipping tend to rank higher in search results. That's a massive potential boost.
Yeah, those are really compelling reasons, especially the search ranking one. But hold on. Paid shipping has its own distinct advantages, particularly if you value control and transparency on your end. First, obviously, it gives you more direct control over recovering your shipping costs because the buyer pays that specific calculated amount. It also makes handling offers like best offers on eBay a bit easier. You're negotiating the item price, not trying to constantly recalculate a bundled price that includes shipping. Here's a neat one. Sometimes you might find a slightly cheaper way to ship than what the calculator charged the buyer. With paid shipping, you potentially keep that difference, and some sellers argue it might lead to lower return rates. The thinking is, if a buyer consciously agrees to pay a separate shipping fee, maybe they're a bit more committed to the purchase.
Okay, so lots to weigh up there on both sides. It really does depend on what you prioritize. So while the mechanics tell us how, and the pros cons give us the strategic why, the real key, it seems, is tailoring this to your unique business. Which brings us right back to that "it depends" answer, but now we can add more layers. Let's dig into how your specific situation shapes this, starting with something maybe overlooked: your physical location, your geography.
Hugely important, yeah. Where do you actually live and ship from? If you happen to be, say, smack in the middle of the country near a major city or shipping hub, well, you've kind of hit the jackpot. Chef's kiss, right? Your shipping costs tend to be much more consistent, whether you're sending something East Coast, West Coast, North, South. But for most of us, if you're on one of the coasts or maybe in a more rural area, you're going to find that shipping to certain parts of the country is noticeably more expensive. So you absolutely need to test this. Here's a great practical tip. Literally Google farthest geographical point within the continental United States from my zip code. Get that far off zip code, then go to eBay's shipping calculator or whatever platform you use, put in your zip code and that distant one, then test it out with a few different theoretical item sizes and weights. See what the cost difference really is. That gives you your worst case scenario, basically.
That's a brilliant, actionable tip. Test your extremes. Okay, what about sourcing opportunities? How does what you can actually buy locally influence this?
Right, this ties into geography too. What's unique about your area is their local manufacturing, unique products, maybe stuff people collect that's more common where you are. Finding those unique local sourcing opportunities can give you better margins, which might, in turn, make offering free shipping more feasible, at least on those items. And think beyond just products. Can you find local sources for shipping supplies? Maybe a big company nearby throws out perfectly good boxes or bubble wrap. That reduces your costs significantly. Here's another angle. Use the eBay app filter for pickup only within, say, 50 miles of you. See what your neighbors are selling locally. It can spark great ideas for things you could source and maybe sell locally yourself, avoiding shipping altogether. Same idea for checking Facebook Marketplace, Craigslist, local auction houses. If you can build a local sales channel, that's pure profit, no shipping fees. Or again, better margins from local sourcing might let you offer free shipping online more competitively.
That makes sense. Leverage your location. Another factor, often very real for sellers, space limitations. How much room do you actually have for inventory? This must influence what you buy and how you approach shipping, right?
Yeah.
We hear terms like velocity or sell-through rate.
Absolutely critical. If you're working out of a small apartment or just have one shelf in the garage, you simply cannot afford to have items sitting around for months. You have to focus on items with good velocity, things that sell relatively quickly, faster movers. And if you need to increase that sales velocity because space is tight, well, strategically adding free shipping where and when you can afford it is definitely a tool in your toolbox. It generally helps items sell faster, freeing up that precious space.
Right. Move it fast to make room for more.
Okay, last factor, budget size. This feels a bit like a trick question because you could argue the basics, research, listing, shipping are the same whether you have $100 or $10,000 to start. But how does budget impact the shipping choice? You're right, the fundamentals don't change. You still need to comp items, list well, pack carefully. But much like the space issue, a smaller starting budget means you need to turn that money over faster. You need to flip that initial capital more often to grow it. So again, those long tail items, the things that might take 6 months or a year to sell, probably not ideal when you're starting small. You need faster wins. You'll need to be really selective. Focus on things you're confident will sell relatively quickly. And maybe, just maybe, especially when starting small, lean a bit more into those local sales possibilities we talked about. No platform fees, no shipping costs. You pocket the full amount. It helps stretch that smaller budget while you build your online presence.
So, wrapping this all up, it's clear that the paid versus free shipping decision is anything but black and white. It's really complex, it's nuanced, and maybe most importantly, it's deeply personal to your specific situation as a seller. There really isn't one right answer, and the sellers who succeed seem to be the ones who really think through the mechanics, the strategy, and their own unique context.
Couldn't agree more. It requires ongoing thought and maybe even adjustments as your business grows or changes. And maybe here's a final thought for you to chew on as you figure this out. Think beyond just the cost recovery. How does your shipping strategy, whether you lean towards paid or free, or maybe a mix, how does it fundamentally shape how your customer perceives the value you offer? And what does it say about your overall business identity? Don't just see it as a line item. Think about the message it sends. Is it about pure price or convenience or transparency? Something to consider.